Another month in 2024 in the books. You already know the deal with these photo recap videos, so I'm not going to get into it. Essentially, we're just talking about my favorite photos that I took in the past month. In last month's recap, I said this. To put it quite frankly, I don't do as much shooting nowadays as I used to. And sure, part of that has to do with the weather outside and the lack of sunlight a lot of times. But overall, I just kind of haven't had the urge to go out and shoot. Well, pretty much immediately after recording that, I actually started shooting a lot. It felt like I was burning through rolls of film faster than a Taco Bell bathroom burns through toilet paper. And I really chalked that up to some decent weather outside and just being really inspired to shoot a lot of medium format. I bought my very first medium format camera, the Bronica SQAI, more on that in just a little bit. And overall, I've just been pretty satisfied with my work lately. And something to remember is that when you're happy with your work, it's easy to keep doing it. So, enough blabbering, let's check out some photos. I want to start off with a ton of photos of my cats. My cats are so amazing to photograph, and instead of making this whole video about them, which I easily could have done, I just wanted to throw together a montage of all the photos of my cats that I took this month. So this is a new section that I'm calling the Kitty Corner, so without further ado, enjoy. Alright, I hope you liked that. Now, let's get on to my 5 favorite photos of the month, starting with this. This photo was taken on Kodak Gold 200 with the Bronica SQAI. So, I was out at Brooklyn Bridge Park taking photos of the water and the sunset when this bird flew on over and perched itself on this fence. I quickly tried to grab my camera, but the bird flew away. I wanted it to come back because I wanted to get a photo of it, so I set my camera up in a position to where when it landed, I could get the photo. I had some crackers in my bag, so I ended up crumpling some of it up and sprinkling it on the fence. And then lo and behold, the bird flew back over and I started snapping away. I took, I believe, 4 photos of this bird, 3 of which were not so great, but this one I think is wonderful. Not only do you get that nice medium format depth of field, I think that there's something special about seeing a photo of a bird like this so still in a way that we very rarely get to. On the bottom half of the image, we have this X that's implied with the railing and the skyline behind it. The bird is right on top in the center of the image, and also, I think that this photo wouldn't work as well if the clouds didn't look like they do here. If the clouds had been one sheet of white or gray, or if the sky was all blue, I don't think that this photo would work as well. Having these clumps of clouds really adds a bit of texture behind the bird. I've mentioned it before that taking photos of animals is always very rewarding because they are unruly and uncooperative. So when you get it right and you take the photo at the right moment, it can make you feel amazing. I took this photo with my new medium format camera, the Bronica SQAI, and it's a camera that I used a bit last summer when I was borrowing it from a friend of mine. I have since bought the camera, and you're probably going to be seeing a lot more work with this camera. In the kit that I bought from this friend of mine, I have an 80mm lens and a 50mm lens, which translates to a 44mm lens and roughly 28mm respectively in 35mm as opposed to medium format. I shot this photo with the 80mm lens, which is the equivalent to the 44mm on 35mm, so that being said, I had to get fairly close to the bird, which it seemed to not really have a problem with, and it stayed there content, posing until I was done, and then it flew away. Something else to note about this photo, if you didn't already notice, is that the Bronica SQAI is a 6x6 square format, meaning all of the photos you get out of it are just going to be a perfect square. Now, among photographers, it appears that the 6x6 format is not so desirable, and I have to say that I agree with that sentiment. I would prefer the image to be cropped a little differently. I mentioned in my review of the Mamiya RB67 that I was a big fan of the 6x7 format, and I stand by that. So switching from that to this camera with the 6x6 format is a little jarring and something that's going to take me a little bit of getting used to. I think that in the future I'm going to look for compositions in which I could crop in post. It's not ideal, but I'm just not a huge fan of the square format. But that being said, I am a huge fan of this photo. This photo was taken on Kodak Gold 200 with the Mamiya RB67 Pro S. Back in 2019 and 2020, I used to live in Harlem up on West 151st Street in Manhattan, and there's this park not far from there that I would go to all of the time. And if you traveled north from that park and you just kept walking, eventually you would find this red lighthouse. Now, I thought about showing a photo of that red lighthouse and including it on this list, but before you get to the lighthouse, you find this log hanging from a tree, and I couldn't help myself but take a photo of it. I like this photo for many reasons, one of which is that medium format depth of field, which I mentioned in the last photo. And up next is the composition. We have several implied triangles with the water and the rocks. And then there's what this photo makes me feel, and it's a sense of solitude, a sense of comfort and tranquility. I was rewatching the movie American Beauty recently, and that scene with the plastic bag blowing in the wind came up. You know which one I'm talking about. I feel like it's easy for people to shit on that movie and to dismiss the monologue that's given in the film as being juvenile or pretentious, but really seeing this log swing right on the edge of Manhattan, looking out at the water, looking at New Jersey, at the New Jersey skyline, it made me pause and reflect on the beautiful things that we find if we just keep our eyes open. That's what I think of when I see this photo. I imagine that someone might sit on this log, look out at the New Jersey skyline, and even though it's New Jersey, they might admire it in all of its beauty. One other thing that I'll note is that the sun is pointing directly at me, the camera taking the photo, and so it creates this nice rim around the log, or our subject. This technique, not that I had much say in the matter, is commonly referred to as short key lighting, as opposed to broad key lighting where the light is coming from the same direction as the camera. I thought I'd just mention that and note that I feel that the short key lighting in this photograph actually does a great deal for my enjoyment of it, but it's a subtle thing and not something that I really noticed until I was looking back and doing a deeper dive for this video. This photo was taken on Kodak Ultramax with the Nikon FG. This month I've done a lot of thinking and soul searching about the way I want my photography to be perceived. Also, I've been wondering about the things that I enjoy photographing and why I enjoy photographing them, and are there things out there that I could be photographing and enjoying, but I just don't know it yet. I was looking back through some of my old videos, and I have this video about the photographer Ernst Haas. You should check it out if you haven't already. And I remember in that video, I showed a lot of his images that are close-up images of textures and colors in the streets of New York. Those photos always stood out to me. So while I was on my walk a few weeks ago, I thought, why don't I look out for these colors and textures, and this is what I found. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is on the level of Ernst Haas, but I see this photo and it does make me happy. It does show some sort of evolution in my creativity. It shows a willingness to experiment, which is something that I feel like I haven't been doing enough of in recent months. This photo is just the side of a big truck, which I have another photo of. I just got up close, found a spot that I thought might make it for an interesting composition, and I took the photo. There's not much more to it. I've mentioned in the past that when doing color photography, I fall on the side of letting your colors really pop and really shine. Some of you may look at this photo and say, Josh, those colors are way too saturated. But I respectfully disagree. I like that it smacks you in the face a bit. I like that it isn't a conventional composition. I like the mixture of colors, the red, the yellow, the green, the black. Not much more to say about this one. I just like it. This photo was taken on Kodak Gold 200 with the Mamiya RB67 Pro S. Now, not long ago, I took a walk at Coney Island, and you may be asking yourself, Josh, why did you go to Coney Island in the dead of winter? Well, that's a good question. It was a really warm, bright, sunny day, and so I thought, what the heck, let me go see what all the fuss is about since I've never been there before. While there were still quite a few people walking on the boardwalk, I do really enjoy my solitude. When taking photos, I like to not be bothered. I like to not have to wait for people to cross through my frame. I only took a handful of photos while I was there. There wasn't very much there that was catching my eye in the ways that I had hoped, but I did stumble across this red box with the letters ATM painted on the side. Just like that last photo, the colors are really what drove me to it and what really drive me to this photo. I don't have much to say about the composition, although I do like that the composition is primarily made up of these 3 vertical rectangles. There's a rule in photography known as the rule of odds, which means that odd numbers or an odd number of subjects can be pleasing to the eye when looking at a photograph. So we can see these 3 vertical strips of rectangles, and within those strips we have different colors that I feel all blend together very well. You've got red, yellow, the light blue of the sky, the gray, and the black. I also just have to admire the texture. You can really see the texture in the wood. Texture has been something that I've been really gravitating towards lately. I know I mentioned it in the last photo, but I've been trying more and more to notice the sort of textures that are around me and not be afraid to document them. Okay, I lied to you in the beginning. Go ahead and sue me. But I had to include one photo of my cats in the top 5, and it's for a very good reason. When making these lists, I like to sort of include a little bit of variety. I don't like everything to look the same. There's been a lot of Kodak going on. There's been a lot of stuff shot on the Mamiya RB67. So I wanted to show you something a little bit different. This was shot on the Bronica SQAI, and it was shot with Fomapan 400, which is something that I don't shoot very often. Truth be told, the only reason I was using this roll in the camera was just to do a test to make sure that the camera was still working. Now, you may be wondering, why does this photo look like that? And the reason is because in the kit that my friend gave me when I bought the camera, there were 3 filters that I've never seen before, and they're called close-up filters, and you can find them on B&H or Amazon. Now, I don't have much experience using these filters. From what I can gather, the main essence of close-up filters is to reduce the close focus distance of the lens and increase optical magnification to produce a macro effect. So essentially, close-up filters work the same way that a magnifying glass might. It's important to note also, and I didn't know this before taking these photos, but apparently close-up filters significantly increase the aperture ratio, meaning that they collect a little bit more light. Now, the engineering of lenses is something that's still pretty foreign to me, so I could not tell you for the life of me why that is. But anyway, that's why this photo looks the way it does, because it was shot using one of the close-up filters. I believe this one was shot with the +4 filter. My friend gave me a +1, +2, and +4. I'm actually really interested to try these filters out more, especially considering what I just said in my last 2 photos about being interested in texture and color. Being able to get right up close and personal and keep things in focus is pretty cool. I can't say for sure, but I remember taking this photo of Pierre while he was sleeping, and I was maybe 5 inches away from his face. And even looking at this photo, you could see that the focal plane is incredibly narrow. Not only just for textures around the city, I really want to use this technique for some portrait photography. I think it could really lend itself to some interesting effects in that realm. Outside of all of that, I really like this photo out of all of the ones that I took with these filters of my cats because it has a little bit of an experimental edge to it, and I'm not just talking about the light leak on the left side of the frame. I feel like it's rare to see photos so up close and personal of animals, so getting these photos back and seeing how well they turned out really was a breath of fresh air and really got me excited for how I'm going to try to use these filters and the camera in the future. So that'll do it for my month of February. I really hope that this year has been going well for everyone out there. At the time of this recording, we are closing in on 1,700 subscribers, and it might not sound like a lot, but it means the world to me that so many people are finding my channel organically, and people seem to be commenting and enjoying what I'm making. So I'm excited to keep this channel going in the future. I'm going to try to keep my videos coming out weekly, but if I can't do that, I for sure am going to make sure that these photo recap videos come out every single month. I think that they really help me grow as a photographer and keep my head focused on the art and the technique and where I want to be going with all of this. So once again, thank you all so much. do me a favor, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out. Go ahead and leave me a comment. Go ahead and hit the like button. You can find the join button and become a member. For a few bucks a month, you can get some interesting perks. Beyond that, you can go to my print shop, consider buying a print for yourself. I think that they are lovely quality from darkroom.com. And with that, I'm going to leave you with some more photos from February that didn't make my list, but I think are also deserving of being seen. So I will see you all next time.